To share her key observation on this critical topic, we are honored to have Honorable Dr. Lina Shabeeb, the board member of the National Center for Human Rights in Jordan. I'd like to welcome her on stage.
How can I find the presentation? بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Namaste. Do I have to do this or does it? If I say namaste without doing this, does it work? I have to do this? Or okay, namaste, everybody. Thank you all for coming, and I would like to thank the Nepal Commissioner for Human Rights for inviting us to do this presentation about the Jordanian National Center for Human Rights. Because what we're talking about is probably a sample of, since 2012, the Amman Declaration on Human Rights, how were we influenced by that declaration, maybe a sample from our countries of how this declaration influenced our institute, probably other institutes, so we're probably sharing this experience. I don't know how to use this. Is this how to do it? Yeah. So the topic of the presentation is the key observations whether nationally in Jordan or internationally, if you like. A very short brief about our center. Our center was established in 2002. It's an independent institute. Now, if I'm going back to what George White said about different institutions with different policies. Now, in Jordan, the legal system is if you have independence in financial independence and legal independence, then you can be, you have the legal right to do some observations and report. So we have to be legally independent from the government, and that makes us observers over the government because our establishment is based on an independent law and with a decree from His Royal Majesty, our King. So our board is established by a royal decree from the King himself. That gives us good enough independence to overwatch or to report on governmental institutes as well as NGOs and national institutes. We were given status A by the Granary, and that was mentioned in the beginning, which is quite distinguished. We were honored to have this status because we worked hard to get to that status. Now, this is our structure, very boring. You can look, you don't want to look, it's okay. We can change that. Now, we're talking about since the declaration, what we did in Jordan. First, we translated it into Arabic. We dismantled, we put a link on our website for the declaration in Arabic and English. We held many workshops on the declaration and the objectives therein. We decided that we need to do more on our work on gender-based observation. So we allocated one of our workers from the protection department to follow up all what our work and to synchronize it with if there's anything related to gender, so she could watch, and if it's related, then she could give us advice on how to guide it better to be more gender sensitive. So we restructured, very minorly, but restructured some of our workers. Of course, we extended our networking with, this is very important, and we realized that we need to keep networking. If we're working in aspects, gender aspects are very well spread. many people, many organizations, national, international, work on that department. So it's very good to keep track of those national, international organizations, their activities, and our networking helped us to achieve many goals that we will get to later. Of course, again, increased our efforts in gender-related law reform. I'll come to that later with more details. How we were influenced by the Amman Declaration. Now, within our institute, our first head of the Board of Trustees for the National Center for Human Rights, it was the first time that we have a female as a head of the board. And I have met the previous male colleagues from a comparison, because she comes from the same field. She was faster to deliver, if I like, if I might say so. Now, 7 of our 16 board members are females, one of which is Her Excellency Alia. Alia is my colleague. She does not attend most of our meetings. She attended virtually, not physically. She has a handicap. She can't move, and she can't talk properly. But her contribution is very, very rich. We look forward to hear her contributions, because she gives a lot of thought of what she's doing, and she does her homework very well. So we really look forward to whatever contribution she gives in our board or on our decisions. Our employees, we have, of course, shortage of employees. We have only 42, 20 of which are female employees. As far as budget allocation, budget allocations are very important, because we could theorize about supporting gender analysis or studies or whatever, but if we don't allocate enough budget for it, it wouldn't move. And I'm saying that because I'm a law professor on public finances. I know what I'm talking about. So we allocated a large sum of money for a new observatory on violence against women. And I'll come to that probably later when I talk about research on gender issues. Now, you know, some of the countries here share this problem, which is honor crimes. I wouldn't call it a serious problem in Jordan, but we have it. Now, some of the violence committed against females under the title of honor crimes is not really that. If we come to analysis, it could be caused for other reasons. So we need to revisit look at our research or statistics, because once we see a female victim, our brains go directly gender-based crime, gender-based violence. Some of it is not really, so we have to revisit some of our studies, and I will come to that later. Again, we will talk about this, female workers in agriculture. We realized that we have a problem with our observation and analysis and support for female workers in agricultural sector and in the rural areas. We realized that we need to work more on that department. We started since 2012. We don't claim that we nailed it. We still have a long way to go in that department, but we're progressing. We realize it needs thorough and more prepared approach, more training. So we're working in it lately, and we're working more, let's say. Females' access to justice, this is very challenging. I've been working on this since 2007 and even before that. We have a problem with educating females on how to address courts, how to claim their rights, even how to know their rights to start with. They don't know even that they have some rights, so we have to keep educating females on their rights, especially in rural areas and out of Amman, the capital of Jordan. So we have been working on this. It's progressing now, and with the cooperation with the Ministry of Justice, we will establish, of course, not only us, with the networking, establishing some bureaus for access to justice to the vulnerable and mainly females. In the election or the political rights era, Jordan is progressing, but very slowly. That's why I asked the lady from Pakistan about the political awareness. We have a long way to go in political awareness. It's progressing, it's slow, but it's happening. And I'll come to that a little bit later, if you don't mind. Now, we work a lot on legal reform. We realize that all our work could be, if we put more work on legal reform, it's better in achieving goals. So we really concentrate on legal reform. One of the efforts we did more than 10 years ago, we participated in reforming the law for elections for municipalities and governorates, and that was raised by law to 25% of the board members should be females. In the later general elections law, that was very challenging. We could not reach that percentage at all, but we're hoping to reach more than that later. But at least we got to raise the number from 15 to 18 members that should be, this is according to the women's quota, so they should be females. And then, because we're changing our laws drastically to political participation, because we didn't have that, we didn't have political parties by law. So now each six of each party members should be females as well. So that should raise the next percentage to 20%. And if we get by a competition more females, then that could raise it more. Of course, we're not, if we got 20% of the parliament as females, that would be great, but we're not gonna stop there. We're hoping if this was successful, we'll move on. The problem why I asked the lady about the elections, the problem is the quota is not convincing to our people. So they look at it as it's you know, it's coming from top to bottom, so they're not convinced. And then they start saying that the electorate, they start saying, if women have quota, then they're coming anyway, let's not vote for them, they will get it anyway, so let's move on. So some of it was not very productive because, first of all, what we wanted for our people to realize that females should be part of the political participation and action, it went sometimes backwards. And even with the quota, sometimes provided or delivered ladies who were not very well educated about their role as members and representatives. So we revisited all that, and we started training, doing very strong or very condensed training courses for people who want to ladies who wanted to participate in the political life. Again, we expanded our role in monitoring all sorts of elections. We monitored the elections for universities, for governorates, for any part that have, in Jordan, that have elections. We monitor that, and we monitor that with the giving remarks. We intend to give remarks if there was enough female participation, that if females were given good chance to elect, to participate. So we enhanced our role there. Women political and public participation, we were talking about that. With other commissioners in Jordan, like the commissioner, I think the Commission for Elections and Public Participation, we have a memorandum of understanding, so we're giving lectures or what do you call them? My English is rusty now, so I'm trying to remember how, workshops for young generations, for both females and males, because they need to be educated about this, for the political participation of women and the importance of that. We increased the number of female observers on the elections itself, and we have a percentage of females with movement problems, but we kind of like, we empowered them to be able to do the monitoring. Now, as far as female empowerment, I was supposed to be the first judge in Jordan, that was back in 1992. But I declined because I was looking forward to become a university professor. That was my initial ambition. But I was one of the people who put the infrastructure for female judges in Jordan, because we have a problem to convince our people that, religiously speaking, in Islam, women can be judges and can hold posts. So the male board of religious people have their proof from religion that women should not be in holding judicial positions. So we brought our proof to the same board that no, this is your interpretation, we have a different interpretation, we have different religious proof that women can be holding positions in higher places and can lead in Islam, and we brought proof, and we won the debate. So women became members of the judicial family since 1993. And we are still working on that. So we raised the number of females from 272 to 286, still working on it. We're hoping to get women to the board. We didn't get there yet, but we got women to be heading the Judicial Institute. That was the first. We have women as district attorney, attorney general, public prosecutors. Those were no-nos. Women can never get there, but we got it now. They got there. So we're still moving on for more women in higher positions. Now, we always talk about women in government, ministers. Most of third world countries, if you like, have female ministers in public places. But how many are ministers of justice? How many are ministers of interior affairs? Almost close to none, probably very rare. So in Jordan, we have female ministers for social issues, for not even for education, for cultural issues, for whatever, but never for justice, never for interior affairs, exterior affairs. Those are the, so you have, okay, we can have female in high posts, but we have females as head of universities, but in delicate high posts, that's still challenging. Women, economic and social rights. I was talking about women in the agricultural field. We realized that this part of female empowerment needs a lot of work. We realized that because we're going to talk later about climate change, most of the agricultural workers that get to lose or have problems because of the climate change are the female workers. They're the victims of the climate. More of in a percentage, we didn't have any statistics, but we realized that the climate change in Jordan caused a large number of female workers in the agricultural field to lose their jobs, or to lose not even their jobs, because some of them are working, but to lose some of their profits, so they have to leave altogether, leave the department or that field of work. We worked with the Ministry of Labor and with many other stakeholders to reform or to change the law for labor law. So we're very happy that we could reach to very good goals, like we insisted that the terminology of the law itself is in line with the international terminology about equality, pluralism, equal chances, equal wages. So we have that written in the law, that there shouldn't be any discrimination, no matter on gender or anything in the wages, even in opportunities, equal opportunities. We are, as I said, increasing our qualitative and quantitative monitoring of agricultural female workers. We pushed for bylaws. Now, in our legal system, you can have a law. The law says that there will be a bylaw issued which is functional, but it's not issued. It takes time to be issued. So we pushed for one of the bylaws that are to support gender equality And this law really have a lot of aspects that are equivalent to what there is internationally and to our hopes for supporting women. We pushed for flexible working hours in the labor law, so that allows female workers to have more flexibility and chances to stay at work or to join work. I don't know where to post this. It's not moving. Can I do it here? If I do it here, it's frozen. I can put it. Let's see if the technical department can do it. Yeah, there. In the field of economic and social rights as well, we increased our visits to the refugee camps. You know, Jordan is hosting 3 or 4 refugee camps for unfortunate Syrian refugees and other nationalities. And we realized that there is, this has been going on for more than 10, 12 years now. Female refugees get to suffer a lot. So we changed, we were supporting refugees per se, regardless of they have the status of refugees. So now we have rearranged our papers to look at female refugees and with sensitive attention to female issues. The use of international treaties, that's very challenging for lawyers in Jordan because according to our law and judicial precedents, court precedents, the international treaties are part of the legal system. But if you go to court and support your case by an international treaty, you will face some rejection by the courts. So we trained many of the lawyers on how to use international treaties, especially human rights treaties, in their defense, and how to convince or to use legal tricks to convince the judges that this is applicable and this is part of the system, especially CEDAW and some of the other international declarations on human rights. Public awareness, we always hold public awareness sessions and flyers. That's an ongoing effort that we do. Lately more on violence, family violence and human trafficking. Again, we're working more now recently on access to justice. We realize that females do not know their rights and they need to be supported to know how to get to courts, to get legal representation and other related issues. In policy reform, this is, again, sometimes you can't have that written in a law. In Jordan, if a lady is threatened by her own family because she's married outside the family or she's having an affair or whatever, now she gets to be imprisoned. We call it administrative imprisonment. It's not like she's not in jail, but she's in jail. So it's administrative. They call it administrative, and it's for her own protection so that her family would not get to her. We worked hard on this part, and we reached a level where women can go to shelters rather than being administratively arrested, and shelters with good enough protection from the police and with even social and psychological support, especially for women with children. So we moved, like we enhanced our work in monitoring women in shelters and the need for social and psychological support and economic support upon discharge, and of course the welfare of children, supporting their mothers. Violence against women is a big issue at our center. I am one of the people who have drafted this law, the law to combat violence, family violence, and violence against women and children. We have a law that's been there for like almost 10 years. We're still training lawyers and judges on that law. But in the labor law, that was even more challenging to change the labor law in many aspects. We broadened the definition of sexual harassment, because in the past it happens, but you can only go to the penal code, which had a very narrow definition of sexual harassment, and you can not prove it. But now we wrote this article, and we widened the description or the definition of sexual harassment, especially in workplaces. Another addition to the law, female victims of sexual harassment have the right to leave work quit work with all compensation, without even giving any notice to their managers. And managers who are what do you call it, by court, if a judge decides that they are offensive, they get fines, high fines, if they prove to be guilty. Again, we hold a lot of sessions and training courses on family laws and protection from violence and sexual harassment in the workplace. Now, as I said earlier, we extended our monitoring of workers, especially in the agricultural field and in the rural areas. We realized we need to do more work there, and we need to do more research on the influence or of climate change on female workers and females in rural areas. We again worked on raising the maternity leave for female workers from 90 days instead of 70 days. And that's a long list of amendments that we may come through, of course, with the help of our stakeholders, giving wider description of dangerous areas where women shouldn't work, disallowing women to work for 6 weeks, pregnant women or women in productive area, if you like, are not allowed to work for 6 weeks after giving birth, and that's totally banned. In the past, they can bring them after 2 weeks and they say we will give them more wages or whatever, but we disallowed that for 6 weeks. Women are not allowed to go back to work, and they're not allowed to go to night work if it's not consensual. We banned the discharge of women in productive periods. There has to be places for women, especially women who gave birth or women who are breastfeeding. There has to be places that are healthy and appropriate for them to relax and work. Of course, and 12 hours of relaxation after work, so she can't go, like nurses cannot go 2 shifts in one day. Challenges within NHR. We have lack of resources. I mean, most of countries, third world countries, have this challenge, lack of resources in manpower and in budget. We need to do better networking. Yes, I have 1 minute. Our major challenge is what you know in the news about Gaza. As human rights workers, we were the distinguished part of the society because we are the credible ones, because we are the formal national center. Now, I am embarrassed to say to the people that I work for the national, I am embarrassed to say that I'm a human rights activist because of what's going on in Gaza. We are looked down. It's hypocrisy. And we're holding sessions for human rights all the time in Jordan, but we don't dare say anything because the people are not taking it anymore. They see us as hypocrites. They see this as the devil coming from the West, the hypocrite one-eyed West, who is not saying anything about human rights when it's being hugely, I don't know what to say, I don't know what words to say, to use. I mean, there's no one right that I've learned about in my life that I've known of that was not hugely ignored or stepped over in Gaza. Not one. Women do not have the right to live even. I'm worried about my son who is in the US taking a course. Maybe he will have something. I shouldn't. My female workers, human workers in Gaza are dead. and the rest of them are suffering for their children's lives. So it's very hypocritical for me to come and talk about women's rights when I look at the country next to me, next door to me, and I can't say nothing and I can't do nothing, and I've been looked down from my own people if I even dare to talk about human rights. So our huge challenge for us as human rights workers is Gaza, and if this should be looked at. Now, if I go back to my people and say, this is an international agreement that gives more rights for women or children or what have you, you can't imagine what will I hear. And now we're challenged, to be honest. We're looked down to, and we're being told that we're hypocrites and that we're not doing anything, that we're useless, that we're just theorists, that nothing is going to change, and that international discrimination is wide, and that's the norm. And this world is only for the stronger and the ones who believe in white supremacy. Those are the ones who win it, and we have to suffer it. That's the general norm in my country. So that's a major challenge for us. Now, instead of us before Gaza event, incidents, before that we can go raising our heads high saying we're international workers of human rights or national workers. Now we don't do that anymore. We go in our own cars, we don't have the logo on the car, and we start gradually telling them that we're kind of like going to approach women's rights this time, or children's rights, or whatever. But we can't really claim that we come from an international committee, from the international family that is in charge of protecting human rights. We can't dare to say that, I'm sorry. But can I ask you, please, for a moment silent for all the female victims of Gaza? Can I ask you for that? Can I dare to ask for this, please? One moment of silence for the female victims of Gaza who cannot be counted. Thank you very much. Thank you. Should I go back? Or? Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shabeeb, for your presentation. We will now begin our panel discussion on the implementation status of the Amman Declaration. This discussion will be focused on the progress made by NHRIs in implementing the declaration and its impact in promoting gender equality. This session will be chaired by Honorable Pravesh Sharma, the Chairperson and Proceedings Commissioner of the Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission of Fiji, and it will be facilitated by Mr. Jerald Joseph, the former Commissioner of Human Rights Commission of Malaysia. We are pleased to have as panelists Honorable Munkhzul Khurelbaatar, the Commissioner of National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia, Honorable Professor Dato, Noor, Aziah, Mohd, Awal, the Commissioner of Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, His Excellency Dr. Mohammad Al-Kuwari, Deputy Chairman, National Human Rights Committee of Qatar, and Ms. Nawres Hussein, Alwan, Khazraj, the Head of Awareness and Education Division in the Babil Office of the High Commission for Human Rights of Iraq. I would like to invite all the speakers on stage to begin the discussion.
glasses. Ladies and gentlemen, namaste and good afternoon. Human rights include political, civil, economic, social, and cultural rights. Every human being has these rights. However, in many societies, these human rights of women and girls are being violated. Poverty and inequality are significant factors that increase vulnerability and discrimination and gender-based violence. Patriarchal structures and systems devalue the lives and contributions of women. Women suffer disproportionately from war, violence, unemployment, and precarious employment. The worst impact of global and national financial crisis are felt by those who are poor, the majority of whom are women and girls. Some women are particularly vulnerable, and these include women belonging to minority groups, indigenous women, refugee and internally displaced women, migrant women, women in institutions or in detention, women with disabilities, and women victims of human trafficking. The conference in Jordan, held from 5th to 7th November 2012, which resulted in the Amman Declaration, focused on the human rights of women and girls. It focused on promoting gender equality, and it focused on the role of national human rights institutions in achieving these important outcomes. That, ladies and gentlemen, sets the context of this panel discussion. And I now hand the floor back to Mr. Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners from the host Nepal Human Rights Commission, Chair Bahadur, Commissioner Lily, for bringing us together. And the reason I'm saying that for bringing us together is because we are looking at another declaration. I mean, the need for a declaration only says we have not arrived at some place. There's hundreds of declarations. I hope we don't need another Amman 2 declaration, because that will only show how failed we have been in our journey as a NHRI community. Thank you to the Honorable Pravesh Sharma, who already outlined the NHRI community 12 years ago said, this is absolute. The involvement, inclusion of women and girls is not a subset of human rights, but the core. I think Commissioner Dr. Lina also gave in very specific terms earlier. It is not just in pronouncements, in policies, or in laws. It's in actual details on how it gets. So it's the numbers, it's the persons, it's the quality of persons, personalities at which position. That's the only way we're going to convince all of us that we have moved 12 years ahead rather than 12 years backwards in terms of commitment to the issue of women's rights and girls' rights. So today we have with us excellent colleagues here who are going to be helping us in a very short way presentation. So let's give a hand for all the four. I will mention their names. Honorable Munkhzul Khurelbaatar, Commissioner of Human Rights Mongolia. Happy to have you here. Honorable Professor Dato Noor Aziah, Commissioner from Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, a former colleague of mine when I was. Honorable Dr. Mohammad Al-Kuwari, Deputy Chair, Human Rights Commission of Qatar. Good to have you here. Nawres, Hussein, Alwan, Khazraj, Head of Awareness and Education Division, Commission on Human Rights of Iraq. A big hand for all four of them. So I think in 10 minutes each, because of time, I know she's looking at me with very fierce eyes. In 10 minutes, I will have to stop you because I also hope we can hear a few comments from the ground. I think I was reminded just now from my colleague Fedo, who told, please don't forget intersectionality. Already they're starting to remind us. So that's a hint on the importance of Amman Declaration. So Without further ado, I'm going to be timekeeper now, and I'm going to give you all your, I think everybody has prepared something to present. Let's hear them out first, and then we'll have a little bit of discussion, and then I'll hand it back to our chair to give the close. So let me invite Honorable Munkhzul Khurelbaatar to start the discussion. A big hand for her.
Namaste, everyone. Good afternoon. I express my gratitude to National Human Rights Commission of Nepal and APF also holding this event. In accordance with the Amman Declaration, the National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia has reflected gender issue among priorities of the successive strategic plans. As a result of various positive domestic and internal action of the National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia, we have seen following achievement. Most importantly, a revision of the long National Human Rights Commission in Mongolia in 2020, we have managed that gender equality should be taken into account when appointing the commissioner, and that at least 40% of the commissioners should be representatives of any gender. As a result of this regulation, out of 6 members of the commissioners, 2 are men and 4 are women. As for 9 executive staffs, 5 are men and 4 are women. Furthermore, the Commission has included in its internal human resource policy to create flexible working hours for staff members to ensure work-family balance, to provide financial assistance to support families. Moreover, the internal regulation of the commissions includes prohibition of any discrimination at the workplace, the role of the employer in the prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace, and mechanism for resolving this type of complaints. Within the scope of its function to receive and handle complaints about human rights violations, the Commission received and resolves complaints regarding violations of the law on gender equality and discrimination in labor relations and sexual harassment in the workplace. Since 2022, a total of 1,055 complaints related to gender equality have been received and resolved. Also, Commission developed training manuals on topic related to gender issue. The Commission oversees implementation of law of gender equality and report to their Parliament on the implementation of the law every 2 years. However, since 2020, we has submitted the report to the Parliament every year as 5 follows related issue, gender issue. As a result of this, out of total 29 recommendations proposed by the National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia, 19 recommendations has been reflected in the relevant resolution of the Parliament. Post time this year, when we have reviewed the implementation of the resolution of the Parliament, based on the recommendations, Commission's recommendations, it has been implemented at 70%. Thanks to the progress, Mongolia has been concrete progress on the status of gender equality in Mongolia. For example, there has been significant progress in the issue of women's political participation, which is the lowest indicator for Mongolia. In 2022, the Commission assessed the implementation of gender equality in political sphere and discussed it in the parliament. As a result, changes we made to election law and quota of women candidates to the parliament was gradually increased from 20 to 40, furthermore 14%. As a result of presentation of female members in the parliament of Mongolia increased from 70% to 25%. In addition, as the Commission conducts regular inquiries on the institutions responsible for ensuring gender equality fulfill their obligation, the implementation of the law is improving at the level of government institutions. Last 22 years, the Commission conducted inquiries into 19 government organizations on the implementation of the law, issued commissioners' directives and recommendations to them, and made them eliminate violation. According to the law on National Human Rights Commission of Mongolia, the official of organizations that received the directives and recommendation of commissioner is bound to pull them. In recent years, the government of Mongolia has been paying significant consideration into the gender issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to our Commissioner, Munkhzul Khurelbaatar. I think this session is, every commission is going to try to convince us that they have been doing good and better. So it's up to you and I and civil society and other actors to query all a bit more. But thank you. I'm very impressed to hear new laws. Parliament is accepting your proposal. There is percentages being inculcated. I think that's what we need to hear in the last 12 years. Thank you so much. And thank you for giving us extra time. It's very kind of you. I now give a big warm welcome to my friend, Commissioner Dato Noor Aziah from the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia. Big hand for her. Yeah.
Right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very good afternoon. Thank you, Human Rights Commission of Nepal, for inviting me to present. Well, as Mr. Jerald rightly said, that what SUHAKAM, or Human Rights Commission of Malaysia, have done in relation to implementation of status of Amman Declaration, and also in terms of gender inclusions in NHRI. Very briefly, I just introduce SUHAKAM, the Human Rights Commission of Malaysia. We were established as under the Act of Parliament in 1999. We have 4 functions which is stated in the Act: promote awareness and to provide education of human rights, advise government on legislation and policy, also to recommend to government to sign treaties, and also to inquire into complaint regarding infringements of human rights. And SUHAKAM's effort in terms of promoting gender equality in line with Amman Declaration, the first thing that we did after Amman Declaration was in 2013, we translate, like what Jordan is doing, we translated the declaration, and that in itself is something that we work on from there on. And in terms of, what happened is that we have gender mainstreaming, and we include that in SUHAKAM Strategic Plan 2021-2025. And then with that, we also, of course, when you're talking about gender mainstreaming, you need to train your staff to understand it first before you could actually talk to others about it. So training of NHI members and staff, and then we have, of course, we have our own internal sexual harassment policy. And of course, the Malaysian government, thank God, have passed the Malaysian Sexual Harassment Act in 2024. So we work very hard in getting government to change policies and pass statutes. Gender mainstreaming in terms of external work with NHRIs based on SUHAKAM mandate. Ever since SUHAKAM has been, we have taken a special interest in rights of vulnerable groups, including women and children. And we, of course, we do this because we have 4 divisions, so each division will have to do work. So promotional materials, we do that. We do lectures to make sure that people understand what is gender mainstreaming and also how it actually work. We have a roundtable discussion on period poverty. We have group discussion on fostering equality and dignity, empowering domestic workers. We also have a judicial colloquium where we actually which entitled Breaking Barriers, Empowering Women and Girls Through Human Rights and SDGs. And this was done in 2023 because sometimes when cases do go to court, we appreciate if that judges understands that we have signed CEDAW, we have signed CRC, we have signed and ratifies CRPD, but when it comes to jobs, discriminations against women, when it goes to court, sometimes those messages do not, the decision of the court sometimes do not come within the preamble of the conventions. Then we also, because in Malaysia we have Sharia court and civil courts, we also do consultations and dialogue with State Religious Department and Sharia courts on child marriages. And we, on online women's rights awareness program, we do quite a number of that. I have to rush through my slide because of the time. And in relation to women's rights and during COVID-19, we had a couple of consultations in relation to issues faced by women, in particular when it comes to COVID. And of course, during COVID, we found out that women works like 6 hours more than men because she is staying home, working from home. She also do all the other work as well. Cooking, washing, looking after the children, and in between that, she also had to do her work because she had to work from home. And we also release press statements if there are issues in relation to women issues, gender issues, and this was done, and we had quite a number of statements in relating to the constitutional amendments in giving citizenship to children, to children born to Malaysian women who married foreign person and the children is born abroad. So that amendment is now going through, hopefully in October, to Parliament, and that has been with very strong consultations with SUHAKAM. And there are reviews of laws and policies, and one is the Gender Equality Bill. SUHAKAM, as a member of the Special Team Project and the Ministry of Women and Family Community Development, we drafted the Gender Equality Bill, but the bill is still not enacted yet. But we have passed, government has passed the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act 2022. I'm sorry, I didn't mention. Now, we have also just amended our SUHAKAM Act, passed in 1999. This is the time we amended it. And of course, with the amendment, we make sure that female commissioners come up to that 30%, but it has been. I mean, we have always have more female commissioners from time to time. And then in relations to, I would just like to comment in terms of staff. Our staffs are 50-50. It's more or less balanced. We have a little bit more, 47 female and 45 male, and our executive secretary is a female, and we have yet to have a female chairman of the SUHAKAM, and also we have yet to have, when our Minister of Women presented our CEDAW report, she said, we have women ministers, etc. We have yet to have a female prime minister. So that's one of the things that we probably work towards. In terms of, our main problem is probably in politics. Our female representation in parliament is kind of reduced. for whatever reason. But you must remember, House of Representatives is through elections. We do have put in many female representatives, but if they are not voted in, because it's the public that actually voted them in. At the moment, we have 40 females out of 200, 30 out of 222 in Parliament. We have 10 in Senate. Yeah? And in terms of so we have, in terms of proposed amendments to the Federal Constitution, this is an issue that is going on in Malaysia and is a focal focus of the SUHAKAM's work at the moment. Now, I'm just going to quickly, oh, it's not moving, okay. Roll of courts. Now, I'm going to go straight to the gap. As I mentioned, we signed CEDAW, we went through the UPR process. Now, in terms of gap of the Amman Declaration, now we find that the declaration does not address specific impact on climate change, on women and children, despite of being a critical issue and that has gained significant attention. And then also with the rise of digital technologies, online gender-based violence, including cyberbullying, harassment, and doxing. And then in terms of mental health issues, we also find that it was adopted in 2012, before SDG were introduced into 15. As a result, the declaration does not explicitly make reference to SDG. I mean, that is understandable. And then, of course, the declaration predates COVID-19 pandemic. And also, declaration touches on corporate accountability, but does not fully integrate the UN guiding principles on business and human rights. And then again, the other gaps that we find that in women's are mentioned in
you
political
have 1.5
conflicts.
minutes,
Yeah.
please.
Right, concluding conflict and institution. And these are some of the gaps, of course, gig workers, which we have been working on, and it does not also include the informal economy sectors. Now, way forward, comprehensive review and stakeholders engagement, benchmark against SDG and business and human rights, those are our recommendations. Integrations of the emerging issues, addressing climate change, advocacy and awareness raising, capacity building for NHRIs, and as a conclusion, SUHAKAM is of the view that action and advocacy on women's and girls' rights must continuously be done to ensure equality and protection of women in Malaysia, and women in the world, actually. SUHAKAM affirms its commitments to advocate and protect rights of women and girls in Malaysia, in line with CEDAW, and calls on government to continuously put forward issues concerning women and girls in the forefront of its agenda. And we acknowledge the significance and progress made in adoption of Amman Declaration. New challenges and emerging issues should also surface. And we hope that the Amman Declaration can be reviewed and updated and captured the latest development, ensuring that the declaration remains relevant and effective in addressing landscape of women's rights globally. Thank you very much for listening.
A big hand for Commissioner Prof. Aziah, right on time, 10 minutes. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us that the Amman Declaration doesn't capture everything. And I think the Commission's NHRIs are guided also by other global commitments. You mentioned SDG, business and human rights. So this is one of the tools we are called today, but very rightly so pointed out, we need to add this with others to make it more comprehensive. Thank you. And difficult work in SUHAKAM, I know, continues. Maybe what she did not mention, I think the earlier speaker from Jordan also, there's a cultural context that even makes progress more difficult, that probably needs to be discuss a little bit more. But thank you so much. Now I continue with our next panelist, Commissioner Dr. Mohammad Al-Kuwari, the Deputy Chair of Human Rights Committee of Qatar. A big hand for him.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like in the beginning to thank Human Rights in Nepal for hosting and excellent organizing. My presentation, Women's Rights, Girls' Rights, and Gender Equality in Amman Declaration. Firstly, women's rights in the Arab region according to Amman Declaration. I will focus on the Arab region in this presentation. There is no doubt that our Arab region has made significant progress regarding gender equality and women's empowerment. However, many challenges still exist that I believe prevent the full realization of Amman Declaration. For instance, reports from the United Nations Economic and Social Commission for West Asia, ISCOA, on sustainable development and inequality in the Arab region for the years 2024 indicate the following. Women hold 18.2% of parliamentary seats in the region compared to the global women's share of 26.5. Excellent. Women occupy 19.5% of political and public positions in the Arab regions compared to the global standard of 35.5%. It is not good. Women hold 12.4% of managerial positions in the Arab regions compared to the global standard of 28.2%. The female labor force participation rate in the Arab regions is 19.8%, which is less than half of the global average of 47.9%. The female unemployment rate in the Arab region is 19.9%, which is 3.5 times higher than the global average of 5.8%. I think this number is clear with the difference between standard and the Arab regions. It is likely that more than 1/3 of women in Arab region have experienced domestic violence, with rates significantly higher in conflict zones and during economic and health crisis. 2, the aforementioned indicator simply means that as national institution in the regions, we have not been able to fully implement Amman Declaration over the past 12 years, unfortunately. Nevertheless, national institutions, this is a positive, have achieved significant success in the areas of women's protections and gender equality, including national institutions have played a crucial role in developing and implementing legislations, policies, plans, and national and sectoral programs in the field of women's rights protections, leading to the following results in the Arab regions. 11 countries have adopted some form of quota in national parliaments. It is positive. 4 countries have granted women the rights to pass citizenship to their children equal to men. 4 countries is not enough, but okay. 8 countries have enacted laws to protect against domestic violence, and the 3 countries have criminalized electronic violence against women. 16 countries, this is a positive, 16 countries have established equal pay laws for the same work performed by men. 13 countries have enacted laws addressed sexual harassment in the workplace. 5 countries have enacted laws criminalizing female genital mutilation. So the national institutions have played an important role in positively engaging with the international human rights system in the field of women's rights and gender equality, including contributing to the creation of regional instruments, such as the Arab Declaration on combating all forms of violence against women and girls issues by the Arab League in 2022. National institutions have contributed to the inclusion of women in their formation and management, including women chairing these institutions and establishing special departments for women's and children's rights within them. Secondly, observation on Amman Declaration and its impacts on women's rights and gender equality. This is gaps and challenges, but I will pass this slides because my colleague said in the last presentation. So I will go direct to thirdly, recommendations to save time. Huh? Okay? You are happy? Yes. Thank you. Future actions for enhancing the implementations of Amman Declarations, recommendations. Review and update Amman Declaration to address its gaps and align it with managing human rights issues and the global development related to women. Number 2, consider conducting a survey of national institutions on their implementation of the declaration and their views on its strengths and weaknesses. Number 3, develop action plan to enhance human rights in national institutional instruments, complementing their strategic plans, including Amman declarations. Number 4, national institutions need to engage in constructive dialogue with the cultural, religious, and social institutions to promote gender equality and protect women's rights. Number 5, lastly, focus on macroeconomic policies and public budget analysis rather than slowly relying on legal measures to support women's rights and participation. Thank you.
A big hand for Dr. Mohammad Al-Kuwari. Thank you so much for that presentation. Okay, thank you. 22 countries in the Arab region, so the statistics now help us understand better. It's very good to honestly say we are not there yet, we are making some progress. That's a good way of self-critical evaluation. Thank you. And I think when you hear that 1/3 of women experience domestic violence is really shocking in this modern world, but I'm sure if we have good data, many of our countries will come to that conclusion also. It's just that we don't have enough information. And also the proposals that I picked up, one is the dialogue with the religious and cultural institutions. That is needing some sophistication and some new thinking and new ideas. So maybe as the NHRI community, we need to share how do we break those barriers where the institutions of religion and culture is used against progress for inclusivity. Yes, it is it's very important. Thank you for that reminder, but maybe next few days we can think of the how to move into that direction. And our final speaker for today, let's give a big hand for Ms. Nawres Hussein Alwan Khazraj from the High Commission of Human Rights of Iraq.
Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Iraqi institution, one minute please. Our commission are born in 1908. Our parliament must choose the board member, but there is a quota in Iraq. Then, when there is a quota in Iraq, then the parliament must choose about the quota, from the boarding a quota percentage for women. Then there is 25% of women present the Commission. We go to work about 3 branches or 3 sides. The first side, we monitoring the violation. There is 13 different files about violation, including the women violation. We monitoring that violation and reported to Parliament. And if there is a violation, we can go to the court with the violated, because there is a judge named the human rights judges. The second branch, or the second side of the community of Iraqi human rights, is go to learning and training all of the branches of Iraq. We go to train all of the Iraqi people, not all of them, but the important some joints like police, like education members, like teachers, look like this. Our plan go to try to educate this people about human rights. The third side of working of human rights, we can have a comprehension. Yani, we can have if you has abused, you can told us, we can go and investigate in this report, investigate in this accident, and can we go to the court with this thing. The difficulties. A lot of Iraqi people don't know what their rights, don't know what we work. That we have, yani we want to increase, and we work about that. One of the difficulties we have, that we don't have the enough resource to do all of that things I said to you. But we have our law, very good law. It's guaranteed that nothing wrong go to the child or the women or even the man, because we have branches and we have department go to work about the violation and reporting this violation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A big hand for Ms. Nawres for giving us a little bit insight into the work in Iraq and using the legal framework, and also the challenges of society. Without an understanding of rights, then how do you come to the system to demand for rights? We have a few minutes to take a few questions. I'm always looking for permission from my powerful moderator here. So if anyone has, you're only allowed to give a very short question, please, because we don't have time. So does anyone want to ask a question, make a comment or a suggestion, looking at the Amman Declaration and how effective it has been to help NHRIs push this agenda on women and girls' rights in our own countries? Anybody wants to take the floor? Yes, I see one hand behind. Okay, I see one hand. Anybody else? I just want to get the hands right. One at the back. Okay, two. I got two hands. And three. Okay. I think we'll do with the three, yeah? 1, 2, and 3. Okay, the mics will come to you, yeah. Your name, organization, and the short question or comment.
Thank you. My name is Pratima Gurung, and I represent academia and also an activist organizations called National Indigenous Disabled Women Association of Nepal. So thank you for the panelists and also the progressive effort that you have been doing within the NHRIs related with gender inclusion and gender justice, I would say. My question to me is very practically. We as a member states, Nepal is in terms of so many international treaties and conventions We are in a very progressive state, but still we find that lack of implementation is one of the challenges that we are finding within the treaty body's mechanisms. I'm talking about convention, I'm not talking about declaration. Because the definitions has been defined, the narratives of convention and the declaration related with the SDG. If you look at the SDG, it's a political commitment. However, there is also some excuses for the government regarding that political commitment. And in this context, I just wanted to know how will these Amman declarations that we have been discussing in this panel will change the lives of those women who are in a heterogeneous identities with diverse identities, because we have CEDAW. Nepal is supposed to submit the 7th CEDAW report, and it is in the process. And so many concluding observations has been given as a mandate, and the NHRIC, including the other relevant stakeholders, we find that some of the efforts, some of the themes, just to give you a very concrete example, is about the intersectional discriminations that women with diverse groups have been facing. And there has not been some kind of particular effort in the country context. So in this context, how would this declaration look our realities, and how can it transform the lives of the common people? Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So this is based on even our treaty commitment, the implementation is weak. What more, the Amman Declaration, how can we ensure that that's a power tool to push the agenda? So we can reflect on that. The second person, gentlemen, your turn. You can speak. Yes. The mic hasn't arrived to you. Yeah. And then one more mic in front here.
Just, you know, a short question.
Yeah, go ahead.
For Professor Noor. So we are accumulating...
Your name, please?
My name is Bahjat Al-Hilu. I am from Palestine Commission for Human Rights. And my question to Dr. Professor Noor, we are accumulating literature of human rights. And today we will witness the birth of a new you know, declaration relevant to human rights. How can we, as human rights defenders, as you know, national commissions for human rights, fill the gap between the theory and the practice, between the de jure and the de facto? Okay, just one recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. You asked one, but it's a very difficult question, but thank you. And final question, madam, please. Yeah. In front here, the mic in front here.
So, just I have two questions,
please.
Name, please? But Shada Al-Zajali from Oman Human Rights Commission. I have two questions regarding the Amman Declaration and other declarations that were adopted by GANRI and the NHRIs. What are the mechanisms of following up the implementation of those articles of these declarations? This is one. Two, at the end of this conference, and what we will come up with, for example, as recommendations. Are we going to raise recommendations to the GANRI or what? If you can just explain.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope somebody from GANRI is here. Okay. But thank you. I think because of time, I'll pass it back to the panelists. If you want to make some comment, just 1 minute, please. I think there was one question for Prof. There's a mic in front of you. And other colleagues, if you want to add.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah, all right. I will answer the question that was asked, in particular in terms of how do we balance between theory and practical, and what do we do? I mean, I could give you a Malaysian example. Malaysia, when we sign all the conventions and treaties, we always have reservation, things that we honestly will tell them that these are the things we are not ready to implement, but those we have not reserved, we will pursue it and to make sure that it is being done. And I think it is very important for human rights institution of the country to pursue those principles or those that we have agreed upon. But in terms of reservation, we have to work it out so that the reservation could be withdrawn. And we have to look at our own country, our own culture, and religious background so that these differences or conflicts could be settled within the country. I mean, government comes and go, they change, but CEDAW do not change. It's there, and we have ratified it, and we have to implement it. And so far as Malaysia is concerned, we have been able to do that. I give you a simple example of CRC. When we first signed, we have like 8 or 12 reservations, then we remove the reservation after 2-3 years, then after another 5 years, we remove another 4 reservations. So we do it gradually because by that time we are ready. CEDAW, for example, Malaysia is a bad example because we have not sent our report, but this year in May, we had a session, we had a dialogue on CEDAW, we sent all our reports, and we answered all the questions. We have done the work, but the thing is, we have not been able to send it to the committee for them to review. So that, I think, is important for us to do. Yeah.
Thank you so much for, over to you, Dr. Mohammad. Please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. About the question, how can we implement the Amman Declaration? My answer, this is my answer, not for others. You cannot apply the Amman Declaration. Why? Because there are some gaps and challenges. All of these, you agree with me? Yes. So, and my recommendation, and quickly and briefly, we have to do that dialogue between stakeholders to find what's the weakness of the Amman Declaration. And then I think we can start from this. And then we have to review the Amman Declaration, and maybe to Kathmandu Declaration will solve all the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the critical questions are actually a reflection of NHRI and society at whole. So NHRI has an inherent duty on itself to ensure those commitments and principles exist in our NHRI. I think some of you shared that, no? Sexual harassment policies, you have in-house training, your complaints mechanism are working, So I think this is the way to ensure your in-house work. The broader work in society, then that's programming. How do you push your government? How you have cultural dialogues with institutions? So I think that's the more difficult part, but you can actually directly ask every NHRI, are you making it work in your NHRI? At least that's the first start that I think what I heard from all of you. Yeah.
If I could just add on the first question, lack of implementation from I think CSOs. The question is from an associations, yeah, and discrimination still happens in terms of women. But I think NHRIs and CSOs, NGOs should work together hand in hand. And we are there. I mean, if the Human Rights Commission would persuade the government, write a paper in saying that this is things that we could do. This is what happened in Malaysia. We write to the government. We suggested, make recommendation. So can CSOs. And of course, in terms of Amman, it's a declaration. But if it's a convention, you have the committee to report, and you can make your alternative report to those committees.
Thank you. Before I hand it over to the chair, let's give a hand first for our 4 panelists. A big hand. Thank you so much. And with that, I hand the mic back to Honorable Pravesh Sharma, Chairperson of the Commission of Fiji, to give the closing statement.
Okay, that's better. The Amman Declaration, I'm going to wear my glasses. Amman Declaration is one of many instruments in promoting the human rights of women and girls. Some of the other instruments which promote the human rights of women and girls include: 1, the Convention on the Elimination of Women and Girls. 2, that was Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, short form CEDAW. 2, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. 3, the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. 4, the Convention on the Right of the Child. And 5, the Covenant on the Right of Persons with Disabilities. Now, ladies and gentlemen, despite all these instruments, women and children continue to face discrimination and breaches of their human rights. Violence continues to be perpetrated against women and girls. I'll give you a real-life example. On 8th August this year, 2024, Dr. Momita Debnath, a young doctor in Kolkata, India, had worked long hours. While she was resting in a workplace in the hospital, she was brutally gang-raped and murdered. In addition, one of the senior officials then tried to say that she had committed suicide. That is a heinous crime. And I'll take a leaf out of Dr. Lina's book, and may I please ask you to rise and observe a minute's silence for Dr. Debnath, please. Thank you. Please be seated. Now, in addition to violence, women also continue to face unfair employment. The chances of getting fair employment still remains a real issue. They might do the same job as men, but get less pay. That continues in so many countries, and that needs to be addressed. Now, while national human rights institutions may face difficulty, they must continue to implement the Amman Declaration outcomes to promote human rights of women and children. Yes, two of our speakers have pointed out there seems to be gaps in the Amman Declaration, such as cyberbullying, climate change. This is perhaps because something like climate change was not recognized as a human right until October 2021. So it's 12 years ago since the declaration. Perhaps it's time to review it. Perhaps it's time to have another summit, think about it, perhaps do an annex document, review where we at, what are the gaps, what are the difficulties, how can we meet all these difficulties and continue our good work. All of you are human rights defenders, and you must continue to do the work you do, and I'm very proud to say I admire you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, all the speakers. We would now like to present a token of appreciation to all the speakers and Dr. Shabeeb as well. I'd like to request the session chair, Honorable Pravesh Sharma, to offer the token of appreciation to all the speakers. I'd like to request Dr. Lina Shabeeb to join us on stage. I would like to invite the chairperson of NHRC Nepal to offer a token of appreciation to the session chair, Honorable Pravesh Sharma. Thank you all the speakers. You want?